Hello and welcome to the NBA Outlet presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me, as always, Kory Waldron. What's up, Kory?
What's up, Nick? It's Wacky Wednesday, and I'm feeling it.
It is a wacky Wednesday. Getting ready for the playoffs. This is going to be one of our last shows of the season in terms of a regular show. Saturday, we're going to give you awards, predictions, NBA team, rookie team, stuff like that. And then it's going to be all playoff talk. So this is going to be one of the last normal episodes. But as always, you can go back and listen to some of the older episodes on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, Google Play, and Dasher. It'll be airing all the new stuff. But Kory, there's been big news. I don't want to say big news, but anytime a superstar's name is mentioned in trade talks, and it was reported yesterday, Brian Windhorst and Zach Lowe confirmed that NBA GMs are making calls for Kawhi Leonard. What does this mean to you? Obviously, it's not from the Spurs shopping him, but if NBA GMs are thinking he's available, there's something going on.
I think now you just have to put all of your options on the table, right? Because this situation has been so, chaotic. I tweeted before, this is, to me, is so wild that we're going to go through a full season where we've barely seen any Kawhi Leonard. It doesn't feel real to me that we haven't seen him, that he probably won't play the rest of the season. The issues off the court, the possible issues he has with management, brass, and Popovich. Obviously, the Spurs keep everything very close-knit, so we don't know a ton. Then this comes out that they're possibly going to be looking for offers. Teams are inquiring about him. It's wild. The Kawhi Leonard saga this season has been the Spurs, for the most part this year, I think, have been more intriguing off the floor with Kawhi than they have been on the floor as they play for a playoff spot. So it's definitely been chaotic for them, and I really don't know what to make of this situation. I don't know how much of this is just a camp putting out a story, how much this is them gauging interest or trying to get some trade value. It's very confusing.
Well, I think, like you mentioned, the fact that the Spurs keep everything under the radar makes the story even more intriguing, and you kind of have them not known. Danny Green was, I think, it was reported, he said no one's at odds with Kawhi. They're still in touch. He's had setbacks. Nobody's mad at him on the team. Then there's also, I think, Nate Robinson hitting at the fact that maybe Jordan Brand wants him to leave San Antonio and go to a big market. And like you mentioned, there might be some disagreement with the front office. Then there's also the fact that the Spurs are the only team that can offer him the Supermax that's like 5 years, $220 million, in which he could possibly sign this summer. So, there's just a ton of variables. If you had to put a percentage on it, what do you think are the chances that Kawhi Leonard could be moved this offseason?
Okay, so I'll say probably 30%. I'm not going to give it a ton of
credibility.
Yeah, credibility until I hear something, actually come out in statement or hear like a possible trade offer, it's like that kind of stuff. Obviously, we knew with like the Pacers and stuff, there was, the possible trades that were offered with Paul George and Kyrie Irving and et cetera for all that, like between the Cavs too. So I'll say until I see some proof of there actually being some kind of traction on them possibly moving him, I'll say 30%.
Yeah, I'm going to go less. I think maybe 10 to 15%. I think when you have a player like this, it's very hard to move, and it would really take Kawhi to force himself out of San Antonio because like we saw with Aldridge this past summer, they're going to want to work out the situation, especially with a guy with his talent. What do you think the chances are that it has something to do with the Jordan Brand and his sponsorship wanting him to get out of San Antonio? That was something we heard with Dwight Howard when he played in Orlando. It's been mentioned with different guys, playing in a big market definitely helps your pocket.
I don't put much stake into it because why would you want to leave a team that's always in the playoffs? I get the small market thing, but San Antonio really isn't a small market. Obviously, if you're in San Antonio, you're a little bit more under the radar because you're so good in a very pure basketball sense because they play basketball in many ways the right way. They share the ball. They play collectively. They play for each other. But to say, leaving San Antonio is better for your brand and building yourself up, I don't know if I completely buy that. Especially when you have Popovich. The Spurs will always be good. Even if they somehow miss the playoffs this year, it's not like they're, below 500 or really struggling. The only reason they're struggling is because they don't have Kawhi Leonard. If this team has Kawhi Leonard, they're winning over 50 games. They're probably a set locking as the 3 seed, and they're giving, the Warriors and the Rockets a run for their money. So to me, the Jordan Brand thing, to me, that's just the headline. To me, I give no credit to any of that.
I agree with the fact that I don't see Kawhi as a guy that would really care about the brand and push it. Maybe his people would. But I disagree with the fact that I think if you go from playing in San Antonio to say going and playing in New York, like even though Kawhi's not necessarily Mr. Spotlight, like there's just so much attention to you. Like there's guys on like you know this from living in New York. There's guys on the Knicks that just get a lot of like Enes Kanter. Like who talked about Enes Kanter more this season than we probably have in most of his career just because he played in New York and he was getting a chance to say the headlines. I think if Kawhi were to go to like New York or California or something like that, it would definitely help his brand, but I don't see Kawhi as a player that would be really intrigued by that. And he's more focused on winning, at least from what we know about him.
Right, exactly. Kawhi Leonard, from what we've known, has always been quiet, doesn't smile, simply goes in there, punches the time card, does his
Puts in work.
And yeah, right. He's in and out. Kawhi has never been the guy to be, demanding this or wanting the spotlight. I mean, who knows? Maybe behind the scenes he desires that and he really wants that. But there's been no indication that that's been the kind of guy Kawhi Leonard is or wants to be. So I agree.
I mean, there could be some issues with front office too that we don't know about, or he doesn't like the way he's being treated, or he sees other superstars getting better treatment than himself, which could really be a possibility. But, this is obviously all hypothetical. We both agree that it's pretty unlikely that he is traded, but there's still a chance. Who do you think would be interested? Obviously, Boston's been the big talk. Anybody else?
I think Boston is one of the big destinations. I actually thought about this today. There's all that talk about the Philadelphia 76ers going after LeBron. Why not go after Kawhi Leonard? If they have it, I understand the point that you'd be signing LeBron and you'd have to trade for Kawhi. But, a deal package around Markelle Fultz, Dario Saric, and Covington maybe, and
they still have picks.
Right. They have tons of picks. They still have a lot of assets. You throw in Saric and Fultz and a draft pick, or maybe even have to add a Covington. I think if you put a Kawhi Leonard, a Ben Simmons, and an Embiid on the floor, that team is filthy. I think that's the best team in the East by far. I think there's a lot of teams besides the Celtics that Kawhi Leonard could go to. It really just depends on the assets. A younger team can make a pull for him, I think.
Yeah, the Sixers, I like that. I like the fit, too. I like the fact that he doesn't necessarily need to be that on-ball guy who's dominating, but he also gives them another ISO scorer when necessary, which Kawhi really improved on last season that people probably forget about a little bit with him being out. And then also, like you said, Boston, just the fact they could make a trade. They could throw Jason Tatum. They could throw Terry Rozier. They could throw 2 or 3 first-round picks in there. They still have a treasure chest over there. So Philly and Boston definitely seem like a possibility if he's available. Would there be any other teams on your list you think could make a move for him? Especially since we're still thinking, I would assume that big market would place some value in it. If he is forcing a trade, I think that would be part of the deal. So I would think it would have to be one of these teams. Do you think the Lakers could make a swing, or they don't quite have the assets, or just not the right fit?
I mean, they have the assets, but again, I don't think Kawhi Leonard wants to go to a situation where he's not winning then. Even if it's a bigger market, you're not going to want to go to a bigger market if you're not going to be winning. He obviously was not lucky, but gifted enough to be on a team that won a title so early on in his career, where he obviously has already seen and reached the highest level possible, and he's seen what it's like to win. I don't think he'd want to go down, back down to a level where a team is very uncertain about their future. The Lakers, every year we talk about the superstars, they might go there and who is in the rumor mill and et cetera, but they don't bring anybody in. So it's not like getting Kawhi Leonard all of a sudden means players are going to go there. They're going to have the same issues. And like you said, they have the assets, but who do you give up for Kawhi? And if you give up too much it's not like the Lakers are as deep as the Sixers to me and, star level talent. A lot of the guys, you don't know what you're going to get. So say they move a bunch of guys for Kawhi and then the other guys don't pan out. Well, then Kawhi is now stuck on the Lakers and they're not as good. So to me, I think it really just depends on if the team's got the right pieces and if there's going to be a winning culture involved.
What do you think the asking price is? Like you could give me a couple different ideas. How many first round picks? Maybe one promising all-star potential player and a high pick. Maybe all-star potential player, another young role player, and a high pick. What are your thoughts on the asking price? Obviously, superstars and stars, you never get the right value. We've seen it this summer, but it can still work out for the team. And also the fact with the quadricep being in question mark. Obviously, we don't know if it's a long-term type injury, but it does seem like it could be nagging. What do you think the asking price is for Kawhi?
I think it's got to be a young asset, either some kind of vet. I'm not saying like a late vet, but a vet, somewhat between like the prime of his career and then a draft pick. So to me, it's got to be at least 3 pieces for Kawhi Leonard. For example, the Sixers deal I mentioned, Fultz, Sargic, Covington, and a draft pick. I mean, some people may say, "Oh, wow, that's too much," but you got to remember what you're getting in Kawhi, and maybe that is too much. But I still think it takes, a young asset that Popovich can say, "I can mold this guy into a star," and then a vet he can say, "This guy can give me solid, valuable minutes," and then a draft pick for the future. And I think also the guys. I think Popovich is going to be this is obviously all hypothetical. I think the pieces he gets back, he'll be very, critical of. He's not going to take a guy just because he's good. He's going to want players that he thinks he can fit into his system. So it's not like the best deal for Kawhi is the best deal for Pop and the Spurs, if that makes sense. I think it will be really dependent on whether or not Pop can use that guy in his system.
Yeah. Buford and Pop get along very well, great relationship, obviously why they've been attacking such a great team. So that front office and Popovich are obviously going to communicate. And like you said, they're going to look for specific players. We already know that with the Spurs in terms of drafting and character and things along those lines. So it's going to be an interesting thing. I was pondering on the idea, what do you think about if Boston offered Gordon Hayward in a trade? Like, do you think that'd be someone that the Spurs might have interest in?
No, I don't think so, personally. I think if that's the best deal on the table.
No, I'm not saying just straight up. I'm not saying straight up.
No, of course. I'm sure you'd have to add, like a Terry Rozier or I don't know,
Marcus Smart. I would say Hayward, maybe like a young asset and still a high pick.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely, if that's the best deal and Kawhi is, adamant about wanting out, then yeah, I'd probably take that deal. But I don't think Hayward is the best fit for the San Antonio Spurs. I mean, obviously, offensively, he gives you a ton. He, a solid 23%, a 23 point per game scorer and whatnot. But defensively, he's not the greatest. And I think, I don't know. Maybe I'm looking too far into this. I don't know. I just don't think the fit would be as good.
I think we're looking too far into the whole thing because there hasn't even been any real reports about Kawhi.
You ain't kidding, but it's fun, right? You got to find something to talk about at this point in the year.
Well, talking about another hypothetical, I guess, in a sense, are the Raptors scared of LeBron? Are they scared of LeBron and the Cavs? Like, they've been knocked out of the playoffs. They've lost to them last night. They've been knocked out of the playoffs the last 2 years. 2016, they were just handled in the Eastern Conference Finals. Yeah, they won 2 games, but it never really felt like they could win the series. Last year, they were swept in the semis. Like, are the Raptors just kind of shook by the King?
Yes, it's the big brother effect. It's when you're – obviously, I don't have a big brother, and you don't either. But I can assume it'd be in the sense of, say the one kid in the family is 17 and the other person is, 12. And every time you play a pickup game or anything else, you're getting bullied or pushed around. That's what LeBron is to the Raptors. He's the bigger guy in the court. He's, the biggest head in the room. He just overshadows that team. And time again, when they've been, last year, they were given the title of being the team that can dethrone LeBron. They had, PJ Tucker, the LeBron stopper, and all this nonsense. And what did LeBron do? He did what he always does. He dropped a couple triple doubles and he washed the Raptors off the court and made them extinct again. He is the meteor to the dinosaur world for the Raptors. He is what ends them every year. I think it is a psychological thing. When they see LeBron on that floor, I don't think they know what to do. I truly don't. They don't really have anyone who can match up with him to begin with. And he has that, if you've always kicked the shit out of a team, for lack of a better word, then that team is always going to think of you as the guy who always kicks crap out of them. I kind of feel that way with LeBron because he's beaten the Pacers so many times. So I still look at him as that guy who's destroyed my team whenever we played against them. So and at least we've put up some good fights. The Raptors, for the most part, haven't, they've gotten wiped off the floor in almost every playoff appearance against the King. So, yeah, I think at some point there is a mental effect that losing to LeBron James has had on this Raptors team.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's somewhat the LeBron effect. Then I also think the Lowry effect, where he just struggles a lot in the playoffs and in clutch situations. And some of that's been injuries in the past. I think it's a big test for them this year. Do you think their struggles with LeBron is mostly personnel, coaching, or what? What do you think is the real big issue? Or is it just like purely mental where they just like can't handle LeBron?
I think it's a combination of the mental thing with the matchups. For example, I'm not sure if you saw the highlight, but Kyle Lowry was guarding LeBron on the block last night for 6 seconds with no help defense. that's just lack of court awareness. Why is no one going over to help you? You're going to let LeBron beat Kyle Lowry for an easy bucket? Why not double team him so he has to dish out? Like stuff like that. Like that's a mental lapse. Whoever was supposed to help on defense, you need to get over there and help.
Yeah, or
So
Lowry just should foul him. Like if they're, I'm not sure, I wasn't watching the game at that time, if they were over the limit or not. But sometimes that's just a spot where LeBron's getting two points. You should probably just foul him and reset the defense because you
right.
really just had no chance at all.
Well, even if you're gonna foul him and you are in the bonus, it's not like LeBron's a knockdown free throw shooter at this point in his career. Still, he still struggles.
Yeah.
So I agree. But I think the rotation, because to a degree too, last night, Valanciunas can't play against the Cavs. Their small ball lineup makes him completely ineffective. He's too slow to play when the Cavs go small. Obviously Valanciunas actually had a really good year for them, especially after a kind of a slow start. But when the Cavs make the Raptors go small, and when the Raptors go small, they can't match up with like LeBron playing the 4 and Kevin Love playing the 5. So I do think it's a part of it is the matchup. The Raptors, when they have to match up to what the Cavs are doing, they have no chance. And unless Serge Ibaka and Valanciunas are playing huge effective minutes when they're playing a big lineup, then I don't know if they're going to have much success against the Cavs.
Yeah, it's very tough. And I mean, like, people are always like, oh, the Raptors don't have a LeBron stopper. I mean, most teams in the league do not have a LeBron stopper. I don't think there is a LeBron stopper. There's a LeBron, slower downer, but there's not a stopper. So I think it's just like, it's a combination of things. And I think you just have to really find a way to attack the Cavs and exploit them, because I think they're vulnerable in certain parts of the lineup. But LeBron, you just have to figure it out and give him all the attention. I think, we've seen it both ways where teams have really doubled LeBron and tripled him, where in the sense where he's passing to the open man. We've also seen the finals where LeBron's put up giant numbers and his team still lost because they're just like, all right, we'll let LeBron get his own. And that's about it. So, I mean, there's different approaches. And I think like for the Raptors, it hasn't worked. And if it doesn't work at what you've been doing in the first or second game in a series, if you face them, you just have to come out with something crazy and try something new to confuse him or take them off the edge or just slow them down one step. And I also saw something a little bit alarming about the Raptors. I believe Kevin O'Connor posted it. It's since like March or sometime earlier in 2018, the Raptors defense has been bad against good offenses and just great against bad offenses. So when they face a good offense, they don't really bring that same defensive level. But moving on from there, I know the 2K draft was today. What are your thoughts on the 2K league? If you don't know, the NBA associated with the 2K game, 2K18, they're going to have a special game just for the league. But what are your thoughts on this, development and esports getting so big in the NBA world?
Well, first, I have to hit the negative. So the draft was supposed to start at 1 o'clock. I was walking home from work today, a 2.2-mile walk in dress shoes, and my feet still hurt. But I was walking, and it's supposed to start at 1 o'clock, so I was trying to tune in. The draft, I believe, started like 20 to 25 minutes behind schedule. Oof. Because the feed wouldn't stay on the Twitch TV, and even the NBA TV was having trouble like getting the feed. So that's not a great start, that you're already having technical issues. I'm not sure how many people they lost a viewing just because they couldn't get the feed up. So that was one issue. But besides that, it's an interesting development. Like, Shaq is in charge of the Sacramento Kings organization, like their GM or whatever. I wasn't aware of that. He actually drafted Big Shot Moot, who we had on this podcast a couple of weeks ago, who we interviewed. So that's kind of cool to see, Shaq picking a guy that we interviewed, makes me feel a little warm inside. But, what's his name? Jeremy Farrah, the guy who plays Turtle in Entourage.
Yep.
He's also the Knicks, right? Yeah, the Knicks head scout. They drafted Goofy, another person out, Kyle. I can't say your last name, Kyle, but he interviewed Goofy the other day for OTG too. So a couple of our guys went top 10, which is cool to see, that we interviewed, that is. I think the league has interest. There's 6 players per team, 102 players. It was a snake draft. It might still be going on. I'm sure it's probably wrapping up by now if it is still going on. But it's going to be interesting. I know that a lot of people are into it right now. Obviously, with 17 NBA teams, it's not the full league. But if this season has success, who knows? We could see all 30 teams next year possibly. It's definitely a great opportunity for the players. They're making $35,000. Oh, no. The first 12 picks, I believe, are making $35,000 over 6 months. So, I mean, I ain't making that over a year. So that's pretty
That
damn
doesn't,
good.
and they get housing as well.
Right. Exactly.
So,
So they're
and
pretty
that's a
much
big
living scot-free for 6 months, making 35K. That's a nice piece of change. So
for
it's
playing
definitely
a
a great
video game.
opportunity. Right.
And
And it doesn't even count the off the controller endorsements because a lot of these guys, they get sponsorships from, I've known a couple of Red Bull athletes that are gamers. They have a lot of opportunities that come to them. So if they use the platform right, say they're active on YouTube, this is definitely a career path now. And it's not a large one, obviously. You have to be the best of the best, but
not yet.
this is something that's right. It's something that's coming. There we could see 15 down the 15. I mean, 15 years is kind of exotic, or exaggerating. But 10 years from now, we could see the NBA 2K League possibly being just as big as the NBA or bigger than the G League, and just below the NBA. Like, who knows what the growth could be? But it's definitely a step in a more virtual sense.
Yeah, and I definitely think the association with the NBA is going to help it so much. Where so if it was just like a freestanding thing and they weren't officially associated with the NBA, it would kind of hurt in a sense. But now they have that. Like you said, there's just some cool perks, and I think it's just like intriguing. Even for somebody like I'm not the biggest gamer I was probably when I was younger, but now like I play once in a while, play 2K. Like I'm intrigued by it, especially if there's seasons during the off season. Like I might check it out once in a while. I don't know if I'll be able to get super into it, but it's at least something else out there for somebody who maybe necessarily can't compete on the hardwood. They can pick up a controller, show off their basketball IQ because, some people will be like, oh, it's so easy to play 2K, blah, 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 blah. But these guys are actually really good at playing the game and actually understanding the game. It's not just like you can be good on the sticks. Like you have to have some basketball IQ, at least from what we've heard with our interviews.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously, as at Off the Glass, we're trying to get more into the 2K universe. And I mean, these guys put in a lot of time. We don't see, if you didn't hear the interview with Moody, I mean, he said that he spends, hours watching film. I mean, this is like an NBA career. You're not just getting on, getting home from whatever and turning on the Xbox or the PlayStation and playing 2K. There's more that goes into it. There's, the sleep schedule, there's eating, there's
Chemistry.
watching film, right? There's chemistry. It's literally like in the professional NBA team to a sense, but it's literally done on the Xbox or the PlayStation. So it's, obviously the generation of our parents, they may not see it the same, and they may never see it the same. They may just see it as people wasting their time staring at a TV screen. But us as the newer generation, the younger generation, the more tech savvy generation, we realize that, for example, like if I got on a 2K game or whatever and played a game, I mean, I ain't just going to win by getting on and playing. That's just not how it works. These guys literally play, 40 hours a week, if not more, studying and understanding, the mechanics of the game. It's a lot of hard work.
Yeah, it really is. And like you said, shout out to the guys who interviewed with OTG, Moody, Goofy, Detox, and then I think Precision as well. Interview with him's coming out as well. Shout out to you guys for taking the time and wish you the best of luck. But Kory, that wraps it up for today. As I mentioned before, this is going to be our last regular episode. We'll have playoff episodes. What we're going to do for the playoffs, we're going to give you a playoff preview for every series. We're also going to be doing recaps on the regular, and we also have a special podcast type of news thing dropping in the second round, so keep an eye out for that. And as well, Kory's going to keep the roundtables coming for awards, as well in the playoff with playoff predictions. So a lot of great stuff OTG-wise about the NBA playoffs. NBA draft too, and like Kory mentioned, esports, we're expanding. So keep an eye at otgbasketball.com, and make sure you subscribe to the podcast on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, and Google Play.